order, please. I need a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're now back in closed session.
Open session.
Need a motion to certify.
We're now back in open session. Yeah, you said closed.
I did say I'm back in open session. Need a motion to certify that only the items discussed in closed session were those items as authorized by Section 2.23711D of the Virginia Code and those items authorized by the Freedom of Information Act.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Abstain, I wasn't present.
Yes.
Yes. We have several motions out of closed session. First motion, please.
I move that we exempt student A for religious reasons.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Abstain, wasn't present.
Yes.
Yes. We have a second motion out of closed session.
I move that we readmit student B to Montgomery County Public Schools effective tomorrow. Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes. And we have our third and final motion out of closed session.
I move that we suspend student C long-term through January 25th.
Second.
Roll call, please. Okay.
Aye.
No.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes. And that concludes all of our motions out of closed session. Next item on our agenda is honors, awards, and recognition. And as you can see from the size of the audience, we have a number of recognitions and awards this evening. And this is the highlight of this board as we honor all the activity and achievements of our students. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Walt Shannon. Mr. Shannon.
It's our pleasure tonight to recognize our seniors of the month. This time we'll recognize Nelson Simpkins, our Director of Secondary Education, who will introduce the Senior of the Month program.
Good evening, members of the board, members of the audience. As Mr. Jones said, it is a very special highlight of our board meeting to recognize a Senior of the Month from each of our 4 high schools. Tonight we will recognize December and January seniors. Our photos and leadership profiles are displayed on easels in our outer lobby, and we invite you to stop by and view those. Our presentation format provides a snapshot of each senior in their own words on how they view themselves. I know you will enjoy each student's comments as they are always informative and insightful. Now it's my pleasure to recognize our principals. We'll go in alphabetical order tonight. Mr. Carl Polly of Auburn High School, Mr. Brian Kitts, principal of Blacksburg High School. He'll be followed by Dr. Kevin Sears, Christiansburg High School, and he'll be followed by Mr. Danny Knott, principal of Eastern Montgomery High School. Also tonight, we will recognize a state champion as well as state championship teams from 2 of our high schools, Auburn High School and Blacksburg High School, and those principals will make those recognitions immediately following our senior recognitions. At this time, it's my pleasure to present to you Mr. Polly.
Thank you, Mr. Simpkins and Mr. Shannon. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Blackburn, members of the board, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our January Senior of the Month. Our December Senior of the Month is ill this evening and unable to be with us, but hopefully we'll be able to introduce you to her in February. At this time, I would like to ask Julia Goforth to come forward with her parents, David and Allison Goforth, and stand here next to me and face the board. Let me tell you a few things about Julia in her own words. Julia believes her friends would say that she has a great sense of humor. One thing she enjoys is joking with them and quoting their favorite movies. The most meaningful activity that Julia has participated in while in high school was participating in the mock debate during the 2012 presidential election. Of this experience, Julia said, "I learned a lot about our political system and gained real-world knowledge. It was a very beneficial experience." Julia said that Auburn has taught her to learn about cooperation and working well with others. These are the valuable skills that I will continue to develop. Julia's most unforgettable moment in high school was during her senior year when her class won the hallway and homecoming float decoration contest and dancing "The Thriller" by Michael Jackson at the football game. 10 years from now, Julia sees herself as a Virginia Tech architecture graduate and living in a city. She credits her experiences at Auburn as helping her to prepare for a future in which she can be successful. Once again, members of the board, this is Julia Goforth, January Senior of the Month from Auburn High School.
Good evening. I'm not sure that our December Senior of the Month could make it, but I'm going to double check. Dana Thompson, you didn't walk in. Yes, you did, young lady. Came to the back. I'm proud to introduce Blacksburg High School's Senior of the Month for December, Miss Dana Thompson. Dana is escorted tonight by her mom, Carolyn. Would you all please come forward? When asked how her friends would characterize her, Dana says, "The first thing that comes to mind is artistic and creative. I have also been called a leader." Dana says helping out with the girls' basketball team has helped her realize the effects of teamwork and leadership. She said, "It has also given me the chance to learn about a sport, all things I can carry with me." Dana says Blacksburg High School has helped her develop skills in art as well as time management. She says, "I still procrastinate, but at least now I work it into my schedule." Dana's most unforgettable memory during her high school career was when the BHS gym collapsed in the middle of her freshman year, and she had to start night school. In 10 years, she says she sees herself with a career in jewelry. She says Blacksburg High has prepared her for all of the hard work of life and the need for being organized. Congratulations, Dana, for being selected as Blacksburg High School's December Senior of the Month. I'm also proud tonight to introduce Blacksburg High School Senior of the Month for January, Miss Meg Beatty. Meg is escorted tonight by her mom and dad, Cindy and Reinhardt. Could you all please come forward? When asked how her friends would characterize her, Meg says, "My friends characterize me as thoughtful, trustworthy friend and a dedicated, hardworking student." Meg says the most meaningful activity during her 4 years at Blacksburg High School has been her involvement with the National Honor Society after-school tutoring program. She says tutoring different groups of kids has taught me not only how to be patient, but also how to see things from a different perspective. Meg says the heavy course load she took while at BHS has helped her develop both organizational skills and time management skills. She goes on to say that interacting with her peers has allowed her to gain empathy and perspective. Meg says about her most unforgettable memory during high school, "Like many of my peers, the collapse of the gym was an unforgettable experience. In addition to the impact it had on my freshman year, I will also remember the long-term implications for the community and how the community came together to reach a solution." In 10 years, Meg said she hopes to have established herself in a healthcare-related profession. She says, "Not only has BHS provided me with an exceptional education, but my experience have also taught me how to have patience, understanding, and a global perspective." Congratulations to Meg for being selected as Blacksburg High School's Senior of the Month for January 2013.
Good evening, Ms. Blackburn and members of the board. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Christiansburg High School's Senior of the Month for December, Miss Jessica Elise Watson. She is accompanied today by her parents, Mark and Katrina Watson, her grandmother, Doris Watson, and her aunt, Kim Matthews. If they would join me at this time. The following are Jessica's own words about her experiences at Christiansburg High School. My friends would characterize me as a kind and caring person. I believe that it is important to always be genuine and considerate of others' feelings. I believe my friends see me as someone who is honest, easygoing, and always willing to help. My most meaningful activity was playing the lead role in the Christiansburg High School 2012 spring musical production of Ragtime. I had so much fun, and it taught me to be more outgoing and less timid. I learned that there is nothing I can't achieve if I'm willing to work hard and be dedicated. I also gained many friendships through the experience. My personal attributes include humility, optimism, and passion. I try to be modest about my abilities and respectful of others. I'm passionate and enthusiastic about music. My musical skills have progressed dramatically with the help of Mrs. Mandy Townley. My teachers have inspired my love of science, taught me to calculate math with confidence, and taught me to express written words using correct grammar. My most unforgettable experience was being selected as one of 3 representatives of CHS for Honors Choir 2012. This is the highest musical honor that a senior can receive. I dreamed of receiving this honor when I joined the choir in the 9th grade. Receiving this honor let me know that all my hard work had truly paid off. I'm undecided on a career path. Whatever I do in life, it will include my passion for music. I believe God has great plans for me. My high school experience has prepared me with the skills necessary for college success. I'm confident and open to the possibilities that college will bring. I thank my parents for being my greatest supporters. I appreciate their love, discipline, and care for me. And on an additional note, I would just like to say earlier in the school year, I gave each board member a CD of our chamber ensemble singing the national anthem, and I commented then that there was a voice on there that sent chills up my arms every time I heard it, and through the process of elimination, I have determined that that voice is Jessica's, who provides the chills whenever you hear that song. It's my pleasure to present Miss Jessica Watson, CHS's December Student of the Month, Senior of the Month. It is now my pleasure to present Christiansburg High School's Senior of the Month for January, Rebecca Lynn Polly. She is accompanied today by her parents, Carl and Teresa Polly, and her brother and sister. And at this time, I would ask that they join me in the front of the room. These are Rebecca's words regarding her experiences at Christiansburg High School. My friends would characterize me as caring, creative, dedicated, and having a good sense of humor. I've always been one to work hard for things that I really care about. My friends also know that my faith in Jesus Christ is something very important to me, and being a godly witness to others is something I strive for in my everyday life. The most meaningful activity I have engaged in during my 4 years of high school was marching band. Marching band taught me the importance of responsibility, punctuality, and discipline. Marching band also provided me with a group of friends. Mr. Miller has been not only an excellent band director, but a mentor to me and my fellow marching band members. I have learned many things in my 4 years at Christiansburg High School from teachers and classmates. Teachers like Dr. Fletcher and Mrs. Graham have inspired me to learn and be the best person that I can be. I've also developed skills in cosmetology. I came into high school with a yearning and desire to be a cosmetologist, and with Mrs. Ratliff, I have learned more than I would have ever thought I could. Mrs. Ratliff is an encouraging teacher who pushes and inspires you to reach your goals and beyond. The most unforgettable experience I've had during my 4 years of high school would be being part of the cosmetology program. Through this program, I have learned skills in haircutting, styling, salon management, etc. This program has not only provided me with a steady job that I will have while I'm attending college, I've also learned much about myself and what I'm capable of doing. 10 years from now, I see myself managing or owning my own salon. My experiences in high school have most definitely helped me prepare for my future. Teachers and classes have helped me to discover things about myself that I never even knew. Because of hardworking and devoted teachers and my own hard work and dedication, I'm able to have more confidence in myself and do whatever it takes to be successful. Side note on Rebecca, I would like to say that sense of humor will come in handy because her senior assignment for the cosmetology license is to successfully perm her father's hair. It's my pleasure to present Rebecca Lynn Polly.
Ms. Blackburn, Mr. Jones, members of the board, it's my privilege tonight to introduce to you Eastern Montgomery's December Senior of the Month, Eli Motley. Eli is accompanied by his mother, Patricia Motley, this evening. If they'd come forward, please. These are Eli's words. My friends would say that I'm kind, loyal, and always willing to help out when they are in need. They would also say that I'm a hard worker who never leaves a job unfinished. Most of all, my friends would say that I'm a team player who works hard for the betterment of the many. The most meaningful activity I engaged in at Eastern Montgomery would be 5 years of high school football. This experience means so much to me because I took something that I was below par at and turned it into one of my greatest talents. As a freshman, I was told that I wouldn't be able to make the cut for an Eastern Montgomery football player. But over the last 5 years, I have proven my coaches wrong. I have flourished and become a key member of the program. My experiences and education in high school have helped me to sharpen my public speaking skills, boosted my confidence, and helped me develop my leadership skills. Eastern Montgomery has given me countless opportunities to stand out and to lead the pack in day-to-day activities and in directing my peers in important matters. My most unforgettable experience at EMHS would be during my sophomore year in 2010. Our football team had the perfect season, finishing 10-0, and then dominated the playoffs as we worked our way to the state championship game in Group A Division I football. Even though we lost the state championship 63-49, that year taught me what it took to become a champion on and off the field. And with a small group of dedicated, hard-working people, you could achieve anything you wanted to. In 10 years, I see myself as a professional pilot working for a major airline in Southwest Virginia. My experiences in school have prepared me for the long journey to complete college and fulfill my dreams of flying. I hope one day to fly on his plane. Again, it's my privilege to introduce to you our January Senior of the Month, Abby Dunley. Abby is accompanied tonight by her father and mother, James and Cindy Dunley, and her sister, Rebecca. If they would come forward, please. These are Abby's words. I believe my friends would characterize me as outgoing, smart, and funny. They would also say that I'm down to earth, loud, she is, caring, and also stubborn. Her sister confirmed that for me. The most meaningful activity I engaged in during my 4 years of high school was volleyball. I love this sport and it has taught me many things, such as how to be part of a team and that you can't get anything done on a team if you don't work together. Volleyball helped me to learn to manage my time more wisely. I also learned how to be responsible and to be on time. On match days, I would do my homework before we played so that when I got home, I could go to bed on time and be refreshed for the next day at school. The most unforgettable experience I had during my 4 years of high school was Ms. Bissie's math class. Math is one of the subjects I don't enjoy, but with Ms. Bissey, math was always fun. She would tell us stories about her kids when we were doing our work. The stories were always funny, and you couldn't help but laugh at them. Ms. Bissey is one of the best teachers at Eastern Montgomery, and I am definitely thankful for her and the 2 years I had her for a teacher. In 10 years, I hope to see myself finishing up college and doing physical therapy. I also hope that I will be starting my own family. EMHS has prepared me to deal with people and things that go on around you. I have also learned to work hard and not give up, because you have to work hard to achieve what you want in life, and giving up isn't an answer. With her stubbornness, we know she's going to go far. Congratulations.
Next, we'll recognize our athletic teams, beginning with Mr. Pauley, Auburn High School.
Well, it's a pleasure to be up here again. And at this time, I would like to invite my volleyball team and their coaches, Coach Sherry Millirons and Coach Jill Gergen, I believe are both here this evening. Coach Kratz is not here this evening, but if the coaches and the girls would come forward. A mentor of mine one time told me that you need 3 things in order to have a successful athletics program. You need to have numbers, you need to have talent, and you need to have good coaching. Well, we've always had numbers, and we've always had good coaching. And we've also been very fortunate to have some good talent. But this year, it's just been a perfect storm, if you will. We've had just the right combination of talent and just the right personalities and just the right drive to strive for a state championship. I understand that these girls focused on a state championship from the first day of practice until the very day that they won and received their trophy. I understand that they broke every huddle with the word state. So they were focused on the goal, and this year they did achieve it. We've come close before. Coach Millirons has come this close many, many, many times. And this time we made it with just the right combination of numbers and talent and of course our great coaching. So at this time I want to turn it over to Coach Millirons to make a few comments about the girls and the team. Ms. Millirons.
Thank you, Mr. Pauley. And I would like to thank the school board members for inviting us here tonight and giving me the opportunity to recognize these young ladies. I would like to recognize each one of them individually. Our assistant coach, Jill Gergen. Our manager, Morgan Underwood, is not here tonight. Sophomore, Madison Shoemaker. Our juniors, Paige Altizer, Brooke Bostwick, Taylor Helms. Carrie Music is at home sick. Kayla Oliver, Marissa Perry, Laura Vaughn. And our seniors, Laren Altizer, Brianna Nichols, Hannah Paredes is also homesick, and Jordan Watson. To give you an idea of how determined these young ladies were, I need to go back to November 2011, when our team suffered a heartbreaking loss against Matthews in the state semifinals, losing 14-16 in the 5th game. The next day, Matthews went on to win the state championship. We left Richmond that weekend knowing we did not play our best, and yet we lost by 2 points in the 5th game. On that team, we did not have a single senior. I was very proud of how the girls responded to the loss. They did not get discouraged, but got very determined to return to Richmond and to win. Last spring, they played JOs in the off-season, they hit the weight room, and they came to open gyms, which started in April. When our season finally started July 30th, everyone on this team clearly understood that our goal was to win a state championship. And every day, like Mr. Pauley said, we broke our huddle on the word state, reminding ourselves of our goal. We left nothing to chance. We practiced and lifted for 3 hours every day. Our non-district schedule included only double and triple A teams. We finished our regular season with a 20-3 record, losing to Cave Spring and 2 AAA teams from West Virginia. We went undefeated in Three Rivers District play for the 2nd straight year. In our last 7 matches of our season, we showed our dominance by beating every opponent in tournament play in 3 straight sets. We accomplished our goal by beating Luray High School 25-18, 25-11, 25-9 to win the state championship. We finished our season 27-3. We accomplished our goal on the court, but we also accomplished a lot off the court. We participated in the Color Me Rad 5K run for Special Olympics. We held our 2nd 5K pumpkin run at Sinklin Farms with the proceeds benefiting our Dig Pink. And we held our 4th annual Dig Pink campaign. During the month of October, we raised $7,760 for breast cancer research and an additional $900 for a Giles student who suffered an aneurysm during our match at Giles High School. These young ladies gave up much of their free time during lunch and after school to work on our Dig Pink event. And this event is something that our community looks forward to, and it's something that we are all very proud of. These girls also do very well in the classroom. I'm very proud to say that the varsity volleyball team has a cumulative 3.5 GPA. Teachers often tell me that I have the best and brightest students on my team, and I do. I would like to recognize 4 of our seniors: Laren Altizer, Brianna Nichols, Hannah Paredes, and Jordan Watson. These 4 were our leaders on and off the court, and along with being named first team all-district and all-region, our all-state selections are next month, they placed their names in our record books. Laren, our libero, tied the school record for single-season digs. Brianna, our outside hitter, broke the single-season and career ace record. Hannah this year did a wonderful job running our offense, and she finished her career as Auburn's all-time assist leader. Jordan now holds multiple school records, and this year she broke the VHSL record in all divisions, single, double, and AAA for career kills with 1,380 kills. When we returned from Richmond, Jordan signed her letter of intent to play volleyball at Radford University. This season we accomplished a lot on and off the court, and we did it as a team. I have coached for a very long time, and I've learned that it doesn't matter how many team building activities I do, coming together and being a true team is something that these girls have to create. And I can honestly say these girls love each other, and when it comes to volleyball, they put the team first. I cannot be more proud of the girls standing with me tonight. They came together as a team. They worked very hard. They achieved their goal. They got their rings, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So again, I thank you for the opportunity for me to recognize these young ladies.
Next, Mr. Brian Kitts, Principal of Blacksburg High, will introduce the Blacksburg High teams.
Thank you again. At this time, I'd like to ask Coach James DeMarco and both the state champion girls and boys varsity track teams to come forward. I've asked Coach DeMarco to share a few words with you this evening.
Miss Blackburn, Mr. Jones, and members of the board, it's my honor being here to introduce you to a really outstanding group. To my right is our boys team. They won their 4th consecutive state championship, so through their high school career, they had a perfect record of winning state championships in the AA level. This year at the state championship, they not only won the AA title with 19 points, a perfect score is 15. It was the lowest score since 1974 of all classifications. They also had the best performance of all classifications, beating all the AAA schools also. At the Nike Cross Regional Meet, they finished 2nd in the southeast of the United States and got to represent the southeast of the U.S. at the national championships on an all-expense-paid trip courtesy of Nike in Portland, Oregon. At the national championships, the small AA school representing Virginia in the southeast of the United States, finished 10th in the country. We are led by Nick Link, who was the state champion this season. He also finished 11th at the Nike Nationals. He'll be running for NC State next year on scholarship. To his right is Luke Phillips, who is also a student of the month earlier this year, and he'll be representing, going on to college at VMI, also competing for them. To their left, in the nice plaid jacket and haircut, is Matthew Borney, and Matthew's one of the finest smilers. He's still deciding on where he'll attend school next year. As you can tell, we're going through a lot of seniors. Thankfully, to Borney's left is Kenneth Hagan. He will be back next season to help lead our team, hopefully to our 5th consecutive title. To his left is Matthew Pager. Matthew will also be joining Luke at VMI on scholarship to run, and academic scholarships too, I believe, at VMI. And we are missing Noah Combs. He's a sophomore. He's not here tonight. He's got a big project. And academics are first with this group, 3.9 cumulative GPA for this young group of men. And also Nick Wilson, who has a 4.2. He's looking at Carnegie Mellon next year for school, also a senior. So 5 seniors of our top 7. We're going to miss them a ton, but an absolutely unbelievable year. A little luck, a lot of hard work, and a season that they will always remember in the state of Virginia in terms of cross country. We'll always remember this group of guys. Best finish ever at a national championship, Virginia. We've only had 4 teams ever make it there for all schools in Virginia, and this group made it and finished the highest ranking ever for a Southeast boys team with the 10th place finish. So congratulations, guys. Great year. You'll remember it for a long time. Continue the work ethic and your drive into college, and good luck after that and what you decide to do. Thank you for a great season. I will always remember it and cherish it. To my left is our wonderful ladies, and they are very young. We only have 1 senior in that group, and they won the state championships this year, repeating from last year. Last year we had a lot of seniors graduate, and they took it on. They took the mantle of trying to continue the tradition. And over the last 8 years, Blacksburg has won 5 state championships with 3 second-place finishes. So our worst place finish is a 2nd in 8 years. That's absolutely remarkable. These young ladies continue the tradition. Our boys have 9 state titles, the most in Virginia history of all schools in Virginia. The girls have 13, by far dominating the next closest school, which is Lake Braddock, a AAA program. To my left, we were led by Bonnie Engermeyer. She was 3rd at the state meet, only a sophomore, very bright future. She tied Katie Faulkner in a very close race, almost getting 2nd. To her left is a freshman, Emma Stowe, and Emma was one of our alternates on the team this season. For a freshman to make the top 10 on the program is a real tribute to her talents. To our left is Rachel McCoy. Rachel is our senior, our leader of the team. Really got these girls fired up and going into the season this year, and making them believe they can do it despite losing their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th runners from last season graduation. Rachel is also looking at Carnegie Mellon, very bright lady, UVA, and Duke as her choices that she's whittled them down to. To her left is Emily Beatty. Emily just missed all state honors this year. Incredibly hard worker, one of our most improved runners throughout the season. She didn't make the varsity squad last year, and this year she was one of our star pupils. So over a year, really got after it and made our state championship happen. To her left is Claire Ewing Nelson. Claire is a junior, and Claire had struggles with injuries, never gave up, and at the end of the season came up big for us, and was not an easy road for her. She had to battle through some growing pains. She actually grew some. and she struggled with that a little bit, but she fought through it all. And because of that commitment and not giving up and doing the cross training, waking up in the morning, that really helped the team get the job done at the end of the season. To her left is Jen Fleming. Jen also had the same history at the last year at the track season. She had an injury with her hip and just kept working at it with the PT and doing the cross training and weights and all that stuff to get stronger. and didn't have the season that she wanted, but she didn't give up, and I'm proud to say all that hard work is really paying off now in the indoor track season. She's running the best she's ever has, and has really great things to go. She's only a sophomore. To her left is Catherine Benson, one of our juniors and also one of our big captains on the team that helped get the ladies motivated. Even though Catherine's more of a middle distance runner, her enthusiasm for the long distance kept everyone excited. And to her left is Brooke Stevenson, also one of our alternates this year, and has the fire and the determination that we look forward to that keeps this team winning state titles. She just works and works and works, and is going to be a big role on this team next year. So I present you the state championship team. These ladies, their GPAs are all over 3.8, and absolutely phenomenal group that I have the privilege to work with. To their left is Marcia Barrow. Marcia's been with me for 6 years now. She graduated, had her master's from Harvard University. She's a director of a preschool, and she has been with us for 6 years and just done an absolutely perfect. She is my right-hand lady that helps make things get going. And Kathleen Poole, who can't be here today, she's got classes tomorrow at Radford University where she's a professor. And then Brandon Bear, who is a grad assistant teaching physics classes tonight, can't be here as he's at Virginia Tech. But I thank these people for making it happen. Mr. Kitts, our fine principal, absolutely outstanding job in supporting our program, and so is Mr. Stewart, our athletic director. Thank you, board, for recognizing these fine young men and ladies, and we appreciate all you guys' support that you've given us. And thank you, Mr. Jones and Mrs. Blackburn. Thank you so much.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Ryan Mundy to come forward. Head golf coach at Blacksburg High School, Rick Maddox, couldn't be with us tonight, but he shared with me some great things about this young man. Ryan had another exceptional year for BHS Golf in 2012. According to Coach, he really carried the team as they were not as deep as they have been in years past. Ryan finished second in the River Ridge Player of the Year competition, making first team All-District for the third year in a row. He was the 2011 River Ridge District Player of the Year. He was also first team All-Region 4 this year. Ryan is this year's 2012 State Group AA Golf Player of the Year, and he also won the championship with a two-day total of 145, which was 1 over par. He fired an exceptional 5 under par round of 67 on Tuesday the 9th of October to capture the individual title by 1 shot. His performance earned him first team All-State honors for a third year in a row. Ryan has also been selected to the 2012 Roanoke Hall of Fame first place team for a third year. Next up for Ryan's golf career is playing for Coach Hardwick at Virginia Tech. Blacksburg High School is proud to recognize this outstanding athlete and student, Mr. Ryan Mundy.
This concludes our recognitions. At this time, the board will take about a 5-minute break, give board members a chance to meet and greet all those who have been recognized tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I have opened the doors in the back to try to bring some cooler air in here for us this evening, so hopefully that will work. The next item on our agenda is public address, and this is where the board sets aside 30 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes per citizen to address the board on items of educational interest. We have a bit of a glitch with our system this evening. I will be keeping the time here at the dais, and when you see me raise this, that's 30 seconds, okay? So bear with us as we try to troubleshoot and work through our timing issues this evening. We have 4 people who have signed up, and the first person signed up is Susan Malney. I hope I said that last name correct. Okay.
My colleague, Ms. Fox, is coming with me because
Okay.
she's speaking after me.
That's fine.
But don't worry, we signed up on separate lines.
I got you. I got you here.
Each have 3 minutes if we needed it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Carol and I are here tonight to offer a response to the secondary school scheduling study that was presented at the last school board meeting. And we understand that the efficiency study on the secondary scheduling presented was solely an economic model. It doesn't appear to make a distinction between middle and high school programs. And additionally, this study seems to lack a focus on student learning and instructional best practice for middle level students. We'd like to share some perspectives about that. I'm going to offer historical perspective. I've probably spoken to the school board twice in my 30 years of teaching. Both times were to educate and advocate for middle school students. So this is my third time. Tonight, just feel a need to refresh the board's memory perhaps on why we think the middle school program is so important. I was prepared as a high school teacher. My training was as a high school teacher, but I came to teach at Blacksburg Middle School. And at that time, Blacksburg Middle School was a middle school in name only. We were an interdisciplinary team, but my colleagues and I didn't share a common planning time. We didn't have the same students. We weren't geographically proximal to each other within our school. I was really comfortable teaching in that model, but within a few years, I realized that that approach that I had been trained in was not appropriate for middle school students. I realized that I wasn't meeting their needs. They needed an instructional model that was unique to them, that was designed for them, that was neither a junior high or a high school model. That model that we came to adopt was articulated by the National Middle School Association in a publication called This We Believe. It took over 10 years of researching, meetings, and community collaboration to bring our middle school fully into the middle school model for student learning. We built, with community and school board support, a school that was designed to meet the needs of middle level students. We thrived there on Price's Fork Road for 8 years, and due to circumstances beyond anyone's control, we spent nearly the last 3 years at a location that has compromised our ability to continue to function as a middle school. Budget constraints have further eroded our middle school program. As we look forward to our return to Blacksburg next year, we feel compelled to remind the school board of the basic tenets of what a middle school program is, and we hope you will keep that in mind as you formulate your budget. Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to speak just about 3 essential tenets of the middle school program in 3 minutes. So a quick little recap of what we're passionate about as far as the middle school program goes. First is teaming. Teaming being 2 to 4 core teachers working together with a common set of students. Creating these small learning communities within a larger school. That's the purpose of teaming. Some think that teaming is an organizational structure, but it's not just an organizational structure. It is really a deliberate attempt to create strong learning communities within a school that will support the needs of young adolescents. It emphasizes meeting the needs of a diverse community. It also emphasizes developing strong relationships, and teachers and students do that in these small learning communities. We get to know our students very well. The next tenet, which is integral to the teaming, is the planning times, the common planning times that these 4 teachers or 2 teachers, depending on the structure of the team, have together. These planning times are used for a variety of things, not the least of which is us planning and assessing our own teaching, but also used for planning interdisciplinary lessons, which is best practice. Many parent conferences where parents are afforded the opportunity to sit with all the teachers that teach their child and get those multiple perspectives on their child. Team conferences, just with teachers discussing what is working with students, what isn't working with students. Team conferences with students, discussing with them strategies that might make them be more successful. We plan advisory activities in our planning times. We have grade level meetings. We have planning with special ed to support students that need that. So planning times are essential to the teaming that I'm describing in the middle school concept. The third is the advisory, and we call it at Blacksburg Middle School our Titan time, and it's a time set aside during the day. Ours is during lunch, the other half of lunch, and it's a 22-minute block of time where we have class meetings, where we participate in programs like bully prevention, actively caring, where we were able to study peace and conflict resolution and then create our human peace sign that I'm sure you all have seen up on the website. The model that is proposed, was presented in that PowerPoint, core teachers would be teaching 6 classes with up to 150 students with 1 planning time. Advisories would be too large. It would not support the middle school concept.
Ms. Fox, your time's up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Connie Froggett.
Thank you, Chairman Jones, Ms. Blackburn, and board members. My name is Connie Froggett, and I reside at 1751 Brush Mountain Creek Road in Montgomery County. I'm the Vice President of the Montgomery County Educational Foundation, and I would like to invite everyone here tonight to our first annual benefit concert and raffle for public schools on February 2nd at 3 p.m. in the Blacksburg Presbyterian Church Sanctuary. The National Bank is sponsoring our event, and Ms. Blackburn has graciously agreed to be our MC. The concert features renowned tenor Robert Chafin, pianist Erica Sipes, the Virginia Tech Elemental Winds String Quintet, the Blacksburg Children's Chorale Chamber Choir, and groups from Montgomery County Public Schools, including the Auburn High Swing Choir, the Blacksburg High Madrigal Singers, the Eastern Montgomery Elementary Children's Choir, and the Kipps Elementary Orff and Recorder Ensemble. Unfortunately, the Christiansburg schools were unable to join us this year due to conflicts with other events already on their calendar, but we hope to have them represented next year as well. All proceeds from ticket sales and the raffle go directly to grants for Montgomery County Public Schools. The raffle items include an iPad Mini, 2 tickets to the upcoming Steve Martin Show, Virginia Tech concert and theater tickets, and various gift cards. We will also be presenting the winning entries from our recent poetry contest. The foundation held a countywide poetry contest for students in grades 2 through 12. There were 4 grade level categories, and the theme this year was Music in Our World. The first, second, and third place entries in each category, along with any honorable mentions awarded, will be on display at the concert. And the first place winners in all 4 grade level categories will receive their prizes at the concert, which are iPad Minis. Tickets are $12 for adults, $10 for seniors 65 and up, $8 for students, and children aged 3 and under are free. Tickets are available online, by phone, and at the door on the day of the show, depending on remaining availability. For more information or to order tickets, please visit our website at www.montcoef.org. I would like to thank those board members who have already been promoting the foundation and the concert on Facebook. If you haven't joined our email list or liked us on Facebook, we hope you will soon, and we hope you will join us at the concert. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Kelly Pleasant.
Good evening, members of the board, Chairman Jones, Ms. Blackburn. I am Kelly Pleasant, President of the Montgomery County Education Association. I would like to express support of the needs-based budget that Ms. Blackburn will be presenting to the board this evening. None of us need to be reminded of the difficult economic times that have led to our recent budget cuts. We know the sacrifices that have been made to close the gap between what we are given and what we needed to do our jobs. We are well aware of the ever-increasing lack of state funding to public education and what it has done to our local budgets. We appreciate the Board of Supervisors for doing much to help us close the gap. The proposed budget attempts to repair some of the areas that were neglected in recent years. Increased funds for supplies will enhance school performance and help us to maintain our school's excellence. This includes everything from printer cartridges to bulbs for projectors, math and science tools, to cleaning supplies and copy paper. We are grateful that the superintendent supports a budget that increases the salary levels for all employees. It is clear she understands, as does the MCEA, that all school employees are essential to the nurturing and education of the students of Montgomery County Public Schools. We are disappointed that our governor does not value all educational employees in his preliminary compensation budget proposals. We will be traveling to Richmond next week to communicate with our local legislative members the importance of returning state money to the formula. We will follow up with phone calls and letters. We are not absolving the state of their responsibility to the children of Virginia. Yet through it all, despite decreased supply budgets, increased responsibilities due to lost positions, and the continued pressure of high-stakes testing, the employees of Montgomery Public Schools have maintained a standard of excellence in our schools. We put students first every day. We remain confident that this board and administration will continue to lead Montgomery County Public Schools with wisdom and good judgment. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. That concludes all that have signed up at this time. I will open it up to the members of the audience. If there's anyone that would like to speak to this board at this time, if you would do so, please step forward and state your name and address. Seeing no one, public address is now closed. Next item on our agenda is consent items. Anybody have anything they would like to pull under consent? You see the field trips that are listed there, 3 field trips, and then we have a donation. And we'd like to thank the individuals for the donation. Hearing no items are now approved on consent. Next item on our agenda is the personnel report, and I need a motion to approve the personnel report.
Second.
Any discussion? Before I cast the vote, I will be abstaining from the vote this evening. And all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
I abstain. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the financial reports. Need a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the bills? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bills are paid. Need a motion to approve the financial summary report.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the superintendent's reports, recommendations, and announcement. Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Going to begin our superintendent's agenda this evening with 3 facilities items, the first of which will be our monthly internal update about what's going on with facilities in Montgomery County Schools. Mr. Baronato.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Similar format to previous months. Engineering evaluation of schools, Cardno TEC has done our facility assessments. We received the final report, and the presentation will be tonight. The move here to Building C from Junkin Street was completed in December. We're in the process of closing that building. We've minimized the heat. We have, I believe, most of the remaining furniture moved upstairs and ready for further distribution. We've closed Shawsville Elementary School. When the special ed department moved here to Building C, we've minimized the heat there. And both those schools, buildings will be on about 50 degrees through the winter. Also, old BHS, continue closing that. We have relocated the 2 chillers from the old school to the new school. We still have some other things in there that will be relocated, and we've drained the system so there's no heat, and we just have the electricity for security. We're also in the process of relocating mobile units that were left at old Prices Fork. There was one good one that's in process, and that's going to Auburn Middle School to replace a very old unit that needs replacement. The one from Kips Elementary School that is good, that's in process of being moved to Falling Branch, also to replace an old unit there. PTA and booster projects, we have the one at Kips going on. The town of Blacksburg's doing the restroom facility. The roof is on that, and they're continuing. Hopefully that will be completed and ready to use for the spring season. Safe Routes to School program, the county will be putting in a grant request to VDOT for the Auburn campus and Bellevue campus here at the end of this month. And you'll see those on your grant proposals at the beginning of next month. Also, the town of Christiansburg, separate corporate entity, is also allowed to put in for $500,000 worth of improvements in the same program, and theirs will be pertaining to Christiansburg Elementary School and Christiansburg Primary School. Harding Avenue has begun in earnest a project for a picnic shelter on their campus, and we're working with Blacksburg High School to do a couple of projects at the new high school site, one for irrigation similar to the one at Christiansburg High School, and one for possible storage buildings at the multipurpose fields. And that's it. If there are any questions.
For Mr. Baronato, I have one. The school board office, are we ready to look at moving that property over to the county?
Not quite yet. We have to get the remainder of the furniture out for disbursement. We'll eventually consolidate it at Shawsville Elementary School, and after that, I would say it usually takes us at least 8 weeks to be able to get ready to do that. So that's some time frame for accomplishing it.
My next question on Shawsville Elementary, are we ready to?
No,
Okay.
we're not yet, but they are in process.
Do you have a timeline for that?
Not really, because we just moved out of there, so we're 2 months or so away from being able to do that, and we are going to consolidate the things that are left at the Junkin Street location to Shawsville Elementary School and do the yard sales and so forth from there probably.
Walt reminds me that we intend to discuss those for possible surplus on the 28th of February, or the second meeting in February.
When we have that special facilities meeting. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Baronato.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is on our new school projects, and tonight we have as our presenter Tim Burge, who's our project manager for Skanska at Auburn High School, and then we'll move over to the Auburn Middle School, and he's accompanied tonight by Bob Kaler, who's our Blacksburg project person for Skanska, and I guess Curtis is out of town.
Yes.
So it's all yours, Tim.
Thank you, Ms. Blackburn. The projects are progressing well at Auburn, and we have the area was taken on the 4th of January. You can zoom in, you can see that the tennis courts have been paved, the fence is up around it, sidewalks have been put around them as well. We're waiting on weather to put the coating on. Softball field has been inspected, and as far as work that's complete, so that the softball team can start using it.
I got an invitation to throw out the first ball.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, exciting.
Here's a little bit closer shot of the school. You can see that most of the roof on the school has been installed. The weather's been playing a little havoc with us, but we have one more section, the art room, to cover, and the whole building will be under temporary roof or permanent roofing. A few shots of the inside here. The one on the left, that's the mock-up room that we are putting together at Auburn. They've put the sheetrock up, installed the windows. We've also primed the walls. On the right, all the air handlers to the school have been set except for 2 units, which will be set in the near future. This is Blacksburg High School, aerial view of it. You can see that they're working on the softball field. My understanding is they're putting the footers in for the dugouts for the softball field and the baseball field now. His work is well continued on the project. Here's a picture of the middle section administrative area on the left. It's coming together well. It's been decked, and walls have been studded up in there, progressing well. From the right, you can see a looking southwest at the classroom building. It's a nice looking building there. Inside at Blacksburg High School, you can see that a lot of painting's going on there now. This is actually a mock-up room on the left. A lot of painting has already happened in the second and third floor of that building now. Mechanical systems and all are well on their way to being ready, and they are actually dropping in ceiling grid throughout the building now on those 2 floors. On the right here, you see the picture of the auditorium. They're doing the high work now. They put a scaffold up in there so they can actually put in all the ceilings that go inside the auditorium. Other activities, contract for the greenhouses has been awarded. Houses have been awarded by the county. RFPs for F&E have been issued. They should be coming in the next few days. Softball field HS is turned over to MCPS. Bids for AMS are under evaluation right now with Branch. Projects remain on schedule with substantial completion dates as follows. Auburn High School, July 22nd, 2013. BHS Academic Wing, 25th of July, 2013. Remainder of BHS, August 14th, 2013. And then Auburn Middle School, still August 8th, 2014.
Board members, questions?
So the weather hasn't delayed those dates at all?
No, has not delayed them as of yet. We are working extra time on weekends to accommodate that.
The Auburn High School roofs, they're slanted roofs, aren't they? There's no flat roofs.
Yeah, there are quite a few flat roofs there as well.
Really?
Yes, there are.
Why?
It's probably half of it is probably a flat roof, but they do have a little bit of a pitch to them. Not like the metal though.
But there is a pitch.
Yes, there is a pitch.
I mean, that was one of the problems at old Blacksburg
there are
High
pitches
School.
on all the roofs.
So when I saw that flatness, I thought, oh no, here we go again.
They all have a somewhat peak in the middle, not a massive one, but enough to get the water to the roof drains.
The rain will come down and the snow will melt down.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. We appreciate it. Our third item this evening is the Facilities Assessment Report, and the board has seen parts of this report in a board update at an earlier date. And tonight we ask Cardno TEC to make a presentation of some of the key findings. And joining us at the podium this evening on the left, we have Lindsay Edwards, and on the right we have Mike Osteen, both are architects for Cardno Tech, and they're going, or TEC. I've been calling it Tech all this time, so you have to let me work on my brain to make the mindset change. But we welcome Mike and Lindsay this evening, and they're going to go through a presentation about what they did, what their methodology was, and some of their key findings. And I would request that the board perhaps make some notes and hold your questions until they get to the end of the presentation. So,
Great.
Mike, Lindsay, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I basically was down for the field work, and I will be presenting really kind of what we saw in the field. Lindsay will really speak to more of the process. So the field crew, we had 5 guys here for 3 weeks, June 4th to 20th, came in right after school was out last year, and tried to finish up before summer school started. We did overlap just a little bit, but 5 architects and engineers. The facilities we looked at, 23 buildings total, ancillary facilities on those sites, mobile units, stadiums, that kind of thing. We did not look at Auburn Middle or Auburn High School. So the 5 guys that were here basically represented 5 trades: structural, exterior closure, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. We did not look at roofs, interior finish systems, alarm and security systems, or elevators. Facilities already had recent data on those systems, and it was a cost savings measure to limit our scope of work. Structurally, we were really most impressed by the structural work that has gone on before us. We reviewed about 20 reports. We took those reports in the field with us. We looked to identify everything that had been previously identified in other reports. We walked every facility inside and outside, looking for additional issues that we thought were worthy of discussion.
overwhelmingly, it was interesting to see the ongoing monitoring of work. It looks like a really very diligent effort is being made to track the issues that had previously been identified. I would roughly 90% of what we saw had previously been identified. OWPR had looked at all of those, had monitoring in place. We identified a number of other issues. We reported those to facilities, and they got OWPR out to look at them again. And as I understand, their recommendations are now in place, and everything we identified has been looked at this point. My trade was exterior closure, so I know a little bit about this more than some of the other slides. Overwhelmingly, the big issues here for me were, well, I guess the first point to emphasize, probably exterior closure tended to look at smaller deficiencies somewhat than the other trades. The other guys were more kind of systemic, you know, an entire mechanical system was an issue. I had a lot of small issues, frequently didn't even rise to our threshold. We were kind of contractually looking at limiting an issue to something over $3,000. I quite frequently wrote them up under that when they have the ability or capacity to cause more damage by the next time somebody might see them. I might propose going ahead and trying to resolve that. But in general, the things that I saw were relatively minor in nature. My greatest concerns were probably Old Christiansburg Middle School. Y'all probably know the facility as well as I do at this point. Very challenging from an assessment perspective, 3 different buildings, every one has their own life cycle, lots of different systems, but a lot of issues to be addressed there, and you know, depending on your long-term use, appropriate decisions would vary. So our recommendations aren't necessarily as clear as our identification of issues there. Christiansburg High School, you know, a very substantial physical plant, large enough and old enough that it's totally reasonable that there will be systems to that require reconditioning and refurbishment. We looked at movement in the mezzanine above the library. There's a lot of building movement going on there. Number of windows, fortunately there aren't too many windows in that school, but the windows that are there are not in great shape. So identified a number of issues. We did not see anything that we would characterize as unusual or particularly problematic. Very typical kind of deferred maintenance issues we see in every facility we review. The next 3 items are really mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. The real takeaway here is a large portion of the portfolio are buildings built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Just the natural expected service lives of the systems and the components that are in those buildings are really reaching the end of their expected service life. We, in general, really felt like they've been very well maintained. They've been frequently, you know, particular mechanical parts have been replaced in such a way so that they're getting an enhanced or extra years of value out of those systems. But there are a lot of systems that are rapidly approaching the end of their real usable life. Mechanically, you know, I think most systems, everything we saw was functioning. We did see a lot of steam and hot water boilers that are essentially their life is over. Plans need to be made. We have tried to kind of look at them over a 1 to 5 year period and try to prioritize, but they're functioning as we saw them. But you will have greater chance of failure in the coming years. You would have potential for you know, damage to result from that failure. So it's great when given the opportunity to get out in front of those kind of improvements. They are really essentially at the end of their life cycle. Several of these, both mechanical, plumbing, and electrical, There's energy efficiency improvements to be gleaned from any of these expenditures you would be able to make. In reality, they're not going to be real functional paybacks like you might have seen in some of your light replacements or something like that. They're sizable expenses that will have to be made at some point in the near future. Plumbing, simpler systems, certainly. All the systems we saw were functioning and adequate. We identified a dozen buildings that the hot water heaters need to be replaced. They typically are at the end of their service life. There's some damage, maybe some leaking. They're working, they'll continue to work. They should be scheduled for replacement in the near future. Electrically, simpler still, we really found that prior to the 1970 buildings, everything was really in good working order. But again, back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, well, 50s, 60s, 70s, just all those systems are, when they were installed, they had an expected life, and we are at the end of that expected life. Lindsay will kind of address the concept here of what a facility condition index is all about.
Yes, so the facility condition index is a common index that we use in our facility condition assessments to do an apples-to-apples comparison when you have a large portfolio of buildings. So it evens the playing field when you have maybe a smaller, less detailed building or a much larger, more complex building, so you can kind of get an idea of how the work order items are measuring up to one another. So the calculation is quite simple. It's just the sum of the work order items for that facility divided by what we call the PRV, the plant replacement value of the building. And this gives us an index which then is color-coded green, yellow, orange, or red based on condition. The plant replacement value is a system calculated value based on the building type and the building size. We were also provided some plant replacement values for some of the buildings in our portfolio by the Department of Education. So some of the buildings we utilized that provided plant replacement value, and some of the times when we were not provided a value, we used a system calculated plant replacement value. On the far right, you'll see there's a column called FCI 100-1. This is the same index, it's just expressed as a percentage.
So each of the buildings we assigned calculated an FCI 4. It really is, it can be somewhat arbitrarily drawn, but it really kind of a first pass really established exactly what we were trying to do. It identified kind of potentially the buildings that may require the most investment as a percentage of their total value in the immediate future as Bellevue Elementary, Old Christiansburg Middle, and the Technology Building. Just right off the big issues, Bellevue is basically the boiler and the mechanical distribution system pretty much is really needs to be replaced in fairly short order, and that's a large percentage of a rather small building. Old Christiansburg Middle we've kind of addressed previously, and the Technology Building is a collection of things, but basically all that infrastructure. They got some electrical improvements at the point in time that it was converted to the Technology Building, but the mechanical system is kind of compromised there. The orange building here, Wilson House, that really represents a building that would have been yellow, but it's just highlighted in that I think the facilities knew that that had some new uses programmed in the fall, and so they went in and immediately addressed the issues that we identified. So we basically were looking at one moment in time in the 1st of June, and by the time I come here in January, all the issues with that building have been addressed, and it would no longer, it would certainly be green at this point. Then as the next round of buildings, we identified Christiansburg High School, Christiansburg Primary School, Harding Avenue Elementary School, and Shawsville Elementary School.
One thing to note about the FCI calculation, the repair costs or the work items that were observed were only for the elements that we were assessing in the building. So as we mentioned in the beginning, we weren't looking at roofs or other disciplines, so that index is a little bit slightly different because the plant replacement value is for the entire building. Okay, the next slide is the maintenance action plan. So all of the work order items that were observed during the field work were established into a 5-year plan and based on professional judgment and priority of the work item itself. Could you get a little closer to the Sorry. Based on the deficiencies that were observed in the field, we looked at a 5-year plan and recommended, based on the severity of the deficiency or the work item, what year that work item needed to be completed in. So here you will see the 5-year plan, the sum of the work order items for each of those years and the estimated cost per year. And again, these are the items that were identified in the field, and the next slide will address the forecasted work items in the next 20 years.
One more point on the maintenance action plan. So these were the items that we identified. We didn't look at those systems that I previously mentioned before. So a next step here would be for facilities to bring forward the previously identified deficiencies with roofs, elevators, or interior finish systems, and really combine our data with their existing data and come up with their own 5-year maintenance action plan.
And out of the 140 work order items, some of these are as small as $3,000 and some of them are in the $100,000. So it's a quite large range when you're looking at 140 of them. Okay, the long-range planning, we use a software system based on, as Mike was mentioning earlier, the estimated service life of each of the components in the building. So there are industry standards for each component in the building that we've adopted. So based on that life cycle of the component and the install year of the component, we can forecast out when we are anticipating that component to fail. So this is a snapshot of the 20-year recapitalization forecast. You'll notice the color coding is based on system. The purple is the services, so this includes your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and you'll notice that this is the bulk of the anticipated replacements that will need to occur in the next 20 years. One thing that is not included in this graphic are the standard sustainment dollars. So again, this graphic is showing the anticipated run to failure of the components, but the standard sustainment dollars of just standard maintenance on your items, changing filters, that is a separate number which was running around 10 million per year.
Could you repeat that again? Because I couldn't hear very well. I'm sorry.
How far back?
The last one.
Okay, I was just mentioning that this graphic only includes the forecasted anticipated failures of the components, and it doesn't include the standard sustainment dollars. So there are standard sustainment costs such as replacing filters, standard servicing of equipment, and that is a separate number than what is displayed here. So it is, if you were looking at a holistic budget of maintaining your buildings and anticipating replacements, that is in addition to what this graphic is showing.
And this 20-year recapitalization chart, this is now 100% of the building systems. So previously we're talking about systems that we looked at versus systems we didn't look at. The forecast is for the entire building. And that's really the bulk of our presentation. We're available for questions.
Board members' questions?
I have one. When you talked about Christiansburg Middle School and the mezzanine over the library,
yes,
and you said there was some movement,
yes,
what does that mean?
Well, you know, OWPR is here and has really studied that issue more, so it might be a good time to call them forward. But overwhelmingly, you've got a masonry structure, a concrete structure with brick masonry veneer, probably did not have appropriate movement joints designed into it. You have windows that are bridging between the concrete and the brick, so those windows have been subject to a lot of stress over the years. You know, that building, the 70s, I started my career in the 70s, and you know, the great old, you know, your 1934 building, solid masonry, you know, they're still rock solid today. We were trying to make a lot of improvements to buildings, and it just takes a long while to really, you know, work the kinks out. And there was a lot of new ground being covered at that point, and you know, it was not detailed like anyone would ever detail it again, but it's a very valuable asset as it sits and how best to carry forward. So I think we recommended a plan of some cutting in some new movement joints in the brick masonry, and then at the point in time that we feel like all those systems have stabilized, probably replace those windows. But immediate correction would just be some new joints cut into the brick masonry.
Okay, so the brick was added later.
Well, it's a veneer on a very solid, you know, robust concrete. So the brick and the windows both are left to fend for themselves when the concrete does its movement. As Dan and I were talking about before, you know, the concrete's going one direction and the brick's going another direction at this point. So it's, you know, very, very tough on the windows. But overwhelmingly, I mean, it is very, very solid. There's no big structural issue here. You don't want your windows being torqued, but it's a substantially solid building with no concerns about the real integrity of the structure.
And it has been included in our comprehensive crack monitoring and review at that school and some of the remedial efforts that were made over the last 24 months. So what you found, we were already paying attention to.
Yes. The issue was pointed out to me by your staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With regard to Kipps Elementary, you're saying that the steel component is rusting.
Yeah, you know, again.
Why would that be? It's not that old a building.
Well, it's, you know, how was it prepped? What was the final finish coat? Well, I mean, we don't know either, but it was clearly not as well as it should have been. The finish has been compromised. There's rusting at lintels. There's some exposed kind of architectural steel that's really not even required, but there was rusting on quite a bit of that steel. You know, it's just, I forget how we prioritized that. That was me. I feel sure that would have been something that I would have prioritized immediately.
Sure.
Get in there, get rid of that rust, get a new paint finish on it. It's not a big deal. You don't like, you know, it's very unsightly when you walk in the front door of a school and it's rust.
I'm just surprised because it's a fairly new, one of our newer buildings.
Those were, as we looked at it, you know, we understood a lot of the stuff from 50s and 60s, but yeah, the 2000 and later schools that had problems, we saw several things that were a concern.
Thank you.
Tagging along to that, I have a couple of questions. Fallen Branch is not that old either, and yet, what is the EFS there?
EFS. So that's the exterior insulation system. You might think of it really as stucco. Okay. It's kind of a synthetic stucco on an insulated foam. And if you're looking directly at it, I don't have those notes in front of me. Am I talking about real damage or discoloration and staining?
The Fallen Branch Elementary is including damage to that and rusted window lintels.
Yeah, I would need to get back to you on exactly what the issue there is. We saw a little bit of EFS is something that can be, there's 3 or 4 levels of quality of EFS, and it's, you know, when you're making the hard decisions, it's easy to leave out one layer of fiberglass reinforcing, and that's going to allow some visible cracks sooner than a top-notch system. So maybe a corner was cut. I didn't see anything that was structurally unstable, anything to be a significant concern, but it is unsightly. It could be repaired at some point in the future.
So it's not a structural issue as much as it is cosmetic and preventing further damage to the system.
I will follow up, but that would be my impression from my memories, yes.
Okay. Question related to both like mechanical and plumbing. If we have a lot of steam boilers and steam and hot water boilers, obviously they need to be replaced. And as you go in and replace those, would you also be addressing the plumbing issues at the same time? Because they're kind of somewhat one and the same.
Yeah, you can link these things in different ways. We did a certain amount of work packaging, we call it. So, you know, it might be appropriate to look at 3 schools and spread your money across 3 schools and get all new boilers. You know, the boiler guy's coming to town and that's where your deal is. Or it might be an appropriate time to recapitalize the whole system in one school and walk away from that school knowing that you've basically addressed that issue for the foreseeable future and go to the next school, you know, the following year. It could really be, the strategy could go either way. You'd need to kind of study that further.
And I guess one of my last questions, well, another one about the electrical panels. You say they're in poor condition and need to be replacement. Poor condition means that, do you think that they present a hazard and that they don't necessarily pass a current level of inspection, or?
I would say they would all pass current inspection. They aren't built to current code.
Okay.
They probably have been, overwhelmingly the issue I would say is age. But if they have been exposed to moisture, I think I can't recall the school off the top of my head, but I know at one point, I think it was at Christiansburg High School actually, moisture in the wall that the panel was installed in is now no longer allowing the panel to really be firmly installed in its opening. Things like that. It's a system that has essentially lived its life. There's much improved systems on the market at the point in time when you can justify a recapitalization. It's probably appropriate to do so.
Do you see anything that's overloaded? Did you look at the load at the panel at the time?
Again, I'm an architect, not an engineer, but that wasn't a report I was hearing so much. There was some of that in some instances, but I don't think there was any one school that stood out as being anything less than safe for students and staff to work around.
Okay. And then one of my last questions, bear with me.
Yep.
Your color code, does red mean I need to do this in 6 months, 12 months?
No, that was our attempt to kind of identify which schools were need the, probably the most attention. It's not necessarily first as much as it's really a dollar value compared to the plant cost. So it's really kind of a percentage. There's a large amount of work to be done, and so like at Bellevue, the boiler and the heat distribution system, I think, was something approaching maybe $2 million. I mean, that's a significant piece of effort. I was mentioning to Lindsay at dinner tonight, I've got a rental property that I paid $200,000 for that I'm getting ready to put a $150,000 slate roof on. So these improvements down the road can be a very substantial. You're not starting anew. You're spending $2,012, and it's an expensive process to maintain these buildings going forward.
Okay. So this FCI comparison is not something I could necessarily use as a way to determine priority?
It's really used to look at the portfolio as a whole and to get an idea of how the buildings are measuring up to one another and maybe which ones may require more work or more attention. But then in terms of priority, I would really focus on the maintenance action plan, and there's a maintenance action plan for the entire portfolio of buildings, and then there's also a maintenance action plan for each individual building. Okay. So that would be where I would cite the prioritization.
Yeah, this was our full report. Facilities has all this, so every building has its own maintenance action plan, every building has its own forecast.
It also has its own narrative, so the systems that were assessed are described in a little more detail. It's not just listing, you have this, it's a little bit more descriptive on what exactly the setup is in terms of any emergency power systems or those kind of elements. So there's narratives, forecasting, maintenance action plan, photographs, a couple bar charts and graphs.
So overall, how would you rate our facilities based on your experience?
First of all, I love being in all the buildings. I like the old buildings as well as the new ones. I think we were all really blown away by your newer buildings that we looked at. We had 3 gentlemen of my age on the tour, so we had the 60s, 70s, and 80s buildings. We had worked on those buildings, and we know those issues. So, they were of interest to us. We didn't see anything we didn't expect. We really felt like the buildings were all functional and appropriate for a range of components in a portfolio. We felt like we did feel like there were a large number of issues. We felt like they were being addressed very professionally and very diligently. I'm sure everybody would like more money.
Thank you.
We would like more money, definitely.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Contrary to some belief, we would like more money, but especially to put it into facilities.
I have a question about Old Christiansburg Middle School.
Yes.
And it looks like you all were saying that there's a lot of work that needs to be done if we plan on using that building for an extended period of time other than just what we're using it for now.
Right.
I know windows have always been an issue in that building, and asbestos, and what other things maybe in that building that we'd have to deal with?
Well, we didn't really identify asbestos or lead. You know, certainly something you would want to be aware of as you proceeded forward on any of those. I know we had asbestos in I think the painting of certain elements have been avoided for years because of asbestos. That was reported to us. But yeah, windows, I think we had $1 million worth of windows. I think there were several $1 million worth of mechanical improvements. You know, it's worked out to be a great facility in the need that you had over the last couple of years. You know, it was wonderful to have. You know, how would you use it going forward is the first decision, and it might be you know, that might not be a decision that can be made in a timely manner. So there's appropriate kind of mothballing if it's going to sit there. There's appropriate kind of first round of improvements if it's going to be kept out there as a potential swing space or something like that. But if it was really going to be a serious school with you know, a full staff, full student body, it would almost all three buildings could stand substantial recapitalization. We'd want to sit down with the overall reports for those buildings, but those were very difficult from an assessor's perspective because you could just look every direction and write it up.
So of the three buildings,
Yep.
how would you rate them 1, 2, 3 as far as need?
Well, very different characters, but the lower building, which I assume was built as an elementary school, we called it lower. I don't know if y'all refer to them that way or not, but you know, it would be close to being a legitimate elementary school. All the window projects that we saw at so many of the other schools, the energy retrofits, that school would definitely benefit from that. I don't remember mechanical issues in there, but I would assume mechanical, electrical, plumbing date pretty much from the original. The big mechanical issues were up in the upper building, the oldest building. That's a system that really is so substantially past its service life that it becomes hard to really evaluate again. You know, it's kind of remarkable that it's functioning as well as it is.
The cafeteria and the...
Yeah, the middle building, again, more of a, you know, again, I'd need to look at the report. We can, I'll talk with Dan and Jess about how best to make that information available to you. But all three buildings needed substantial new work, and would be, any of those buildings individually would be high on our list throughout your whole portfolio. Then you put them all on the same site, and it's problematic.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You indicated that there were some systems not looked at, like roofs, and what else?
Yes, ma'am. Roofs, elevators, interior finishes, and alarms and security.
Okay. So we would have to combine these two reports to come up with what we're
Yeah, that might be
looking at.
3 or 4 separate reports, but at some point you would want to look at the recommendations that you've received previously and probably merge them with ours. Yeah.
But your final document in here, the 20-year recapitalization forecast, factors those other systems in. Yeah.
Okay, and I was quite shocked when I saw the Shawsville Middle School FCI number. I expected that to be at least yellow, so I was kind of curious how that one ended up in the green. I mean, that's probably one of the older buildings on the list by far.
Probably built better than
See, in Shawsville Middle? Yeah, I don't know. I could real quickly sit here and...
I mean, we can look at that at a later date, but you know, some of the newer schools, you know, schools that are a lot newer on here are yellow and red, and I was just kind of curious.
I think, you know, my quick analysis is it was identified as a very valuable plan. So, you know, you could have $1 million worth of items identified, and it really wouldn't change it from green to yellow.
The other thing to consider is when we're looking at the forecasting and when we're anticipating a component to fail. So if your HVAC system is actually going to fail in 2014, that's going to be a significant cost. But the work order items that are in this FCI calculation are what we observe in the field as needing to be remedied at that moment. So if something is, functioning well, even if it's old, we're not necessarily going to write that up needing work right now, but it may fail in 2 years.
And it could have been that they replaced several things recently, boosting all that up. Yeah.
Also, it's an older school that was probably built very well. My high school is still going strong, and it was built long time ago. Yes.
One final question I have
More comment.
that some of the discussion sparked. The boilers and the heating and plumbing is, do you think we're faced with a situation that if it breaks down and we try to repair it, they're going to look at us and say, no parts available, this thing, we don't manufacture this anymore? Are we up against that in some areas?
I would absolutely think so. I don't have particular evidence of that, but yeah, all of those systems are in danger of that the next time out.
Okay.
We really found all the staff we worked with were very knowledgeable of the system, so that might be worth a follow-up on it. I know we have those exact words in here a couple times. I don't know if it was more profound than that or not across the board, but yeah, absolutely, that's a problem.
Okay. Any additional questions, board members?
I have just 2 or 3 comments. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike and Lindsay for being here this evening. We appreciate it. We do have several copies of the full book. If anybody would like to see specific sections or otherwise, we can make a copy available to you. I'd like to mention Jess Shaw, who was our internal project manager, and also Todd Poff, who's in the audience this evening. Anything that was determined in the structural area that we might not have seen before, OWPR and Todd responded immediately to go out and take a look at that, and we appreciate that. There are a couple of numbers in here I'd like to restate, just because I think they're so important as our board moves forward and has your next level of conversation about facilities. And one of them is the total dollar value of the 5-year maintenance action plan, which is right at $11 million over 5 years, and that's the 140 items that are specifically identified in here as needing to be replaced over the 5 years or prioritized in replacement process from your 5 systems that you looked at. So I think that's important to know in light of the fact that Montgomery County Public Schools has a very limited maintenance budget, and efforts in the past to establish a $1 million or $2 million annual budget for this kind of work have been unsuccessful. The other thing that I'd like to really point out is your last page, and I'm not sure, I don't think it's written on the slide, I think it was in your comments. If you look at that 20-year recapitalization forecast, the forecasting software suggests approximately $225 million would be required to recapitalize the facilities that were reviewed by Cardinal TEC over a 20-year period, and that would equate to approximately $11.25 million per year over that 20-year period to be able to do this kind of a recapitalization process. I just think those numbers need to be stated because of the fact that we have had such great struggles with creating a consistent line of revenue or capital money to do some of these kinds of projects. But it's been a pleasure working with Cardinal TEC, and we appreciate your presentation tonight and the very thorough notebook that you've provided. And I know we'll be talking with you some more about some of the questions that the board asked us this evening. So thank you both.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I had wanted to take the opportunity at the end to thank both Dan and Jess, and we really kept Jess jumping the 3 weeks we were here. So he was very helpful for us, and Dan kept us jumping the same 3 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Our next item is policy 1-1.3, the mission and vision statements, first reading. Mr. Ivers at our at the January 8th meeting noticed that for some reason we had not captured the 6-year plan, mission and vision in the board's reorganization meeting or in your policies. And I can't speak to how that happened because it happened a long time ago, but we have brought you what is your current mission and vision from your 6-year plan. And that 6-year plan is a piece of what we do when we go through the reaccreditation process. And generally, missions and visions are changed and amended when you do a new 6-year plan, which we will begin that process. We have our culminating visit for the last 5 years in the fall of 2013. And at that point, and even before that, we'll begin the conversations about the new mission and vision. So I'm recommending that the board consider adopting the vision and mission, which actually you have been working from for the last several years, but for some reason didn't get transferred into current policy. And this is the first reading of that mission vision.
Board members, comments, questions?
So the blue is the new mission vision, and the black is our current mission vision? No.
I'm not sure what you're looking at. Let me
Here.
get it. Yes. The blue is what it should be, and the black is what had been left in there from previous years in the policy.
The blue is what we as a board had agreed to in some of our retreats. I mean, we've already agreed to this and already went through and hashed this out. To me, I think it would be appropriate to move it to action and vote on the updated policy as presented to the board. Would be my suggestion, but I can't make that vote.
I move that we adopt this as our.
Second.
So the motion and the second is that we adopt our current mission and vision as stated in the blue there, and this is related to policy 1-15 under mission and vision. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have adopted the policy related to mission and vision. Next item.
Next item is supplemental appropriations, and this is basically a routine action in which the board requests the Board of Supervisors for supplemental appropriations based on monies that have been received since the budget was adopted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the supplemental appropriation? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is the recommended budget for the board's consideration to advertise for a public hearing for 2013-2014. It reflects the information that I brought you at the January 14th workshop, and also reflects the board's desire to present a needs-based budget to the Board of Supervisors for requests for funding for 2013-2014. I will highlight just a few of the items that are in here. It is included in the board packet. The only change that I have made since you saw this last week is line 5. There was discussion among board members about the potential to increase some of the funding for field trips. And I applied the same principle to field trips that I had applied to the instructional supply money, and that is I restored an estimated 25% of what has been cut over the last 5 years from field trips. It was a small amount of money because the field trip budget is a relatively small budget. So the major items in here are the potential that we would have to cover the loss of federal title funds due to sequestration. It's about $350,000. It includes an increase in operating costs for new AHS and BHS of approximately $225,000. Will these not come up on the screen? Oh, great, thank you. Thank you. It includes reinstating $300,000 to instructional supply budgets. Over the last 5 years, we've cut $1.37 million, and with the increasing cost of the items that we purchase, we must restore some of the supply money if we expect to continue to function as we need to in our schools. It includes the potential that there would be an increase in cost of health insurance for the board to cover the single subscriber or employee only of approximately $230,000. It includes a recommendation that we cover the remaining 4% shift of VRS for $550,000. I continue to believe that that's indeed imperative if our salary schedules are going to look competitive with surrounding area at all. 65% of the school divisions in Virginia have already transferred the entire 5%. Montgomery County transferred 1% and is in the 35% who were unable to fund all of the VRS transfer. Line 8 is a salary increase for all employees of 2%. It amounts to $1.625 million. I would remind the board that the governor's proposal provides only $490,000 to Montgomery County Public Schools to provide 2% raises to a very selected group of positions within the school system, and does not touch any other function within the district, but it would require $1.625 million to do that for every employee. Restore 2 vacant maintenance positions that we cut on a 1-year basis. These will be the primary engineering maintenance positions that will work with the very complex systems in our 2 new high schools. Fill the hole for Restore to Play of $72,100 for a total of $3,459,134. The second half of this budget, there had been a lot of discussion in past years about trying to separate out items that might be considered capital as opposed to general operations. And for the purpose of this budget, we have identified 3 line items that would be specifically considered capital, and they were funded this year with one-time money by the Board of Supervisors. Replace one-time funds for building repair, roof maintenance plan, which ties right into what we've been talking about, because we do have a 5-year comprehensive roofing plan, and this won't do all of the year's work, but it will, help us stay ahead of the curve. Replace the one-time funds for the 21st century classroom improvements. We have been working over the last 3 years to get all of our schools in terms of technology for students and teachers to an acceptable level. This year we did Christiansburg High School. It cost approximately $350,000 to do one comprehensive high school. We have completed all of the elementary schools, and we're continuing to move through the circuit of trying to get every school completed. And then a final one, continue our bus replacement project with 4 additional buses in 2013-14 for $350,000, which is $750,000 worth of capital increases. So the total budget increase, $4,209,134. And if you look at the bottom of this chart, you'll see there that our anticipated additional revenue is $615,891 from the state and $32,926 from the feds, for a net gap between available funds and needed funds to fund this budget of $3,560,317. And this is the budget that I am recommending for the board's consideration this evening.
Board members, questions for the superintendent?
I'll go ahead and do the motion so we can move on.
Okay.
I move that we adopt this budget for a public hearing.
Second.
Now for discussion. Comments, questions for the superintendent? Do we, the health insurance, have we gotten any feedback? We know the number,
We do not.
don't have any hard number yet on the health insurance.
No, we do not.
And we don't know about sequestration. We haven't heard.
Mid-March. You know, with the sequestration, you know, the caveat is you may have choices, you know. You may be able to just discontinue the services, but you discontinue the services to the two most needy populations in the school division. Your Title I kids, which are basically your children who are living in poverty, and number two, your special education students. Or you find a way to continue those services by taking money from other places or finding additional revenue for it. Best thing that could happen is that it goes away.
Right.
I'm not willing to take a chance and not put it in the budget for potential consideration.
Well, from what I can see, you've done an amazing job, you and the staff, because it's just not been easy. And as the state continues to cut back and the federal government continues to cut back, it's very painful for public schools.
Any further discussion on the budget as presented? Since it is a budget item, I'll ask for roll call on this.
Ms. Albright?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. You have a budget to present for public.
Thank you very much, and that finishes my agenda.
Next item on the agenda is unfinished business by school board members. Do we have any unfinished business?
Just have one question for Ms. Blackburn, and she's already provided me with some information that will be helpful since I'm the new person on the board. Some of you are familiar with kind of the organizational structure of the central office, but I've noticed that in the next 6 months there's going to be several retirements, and was just wondering if she could share with the board and the public about her position of keeping the organizational structure the way it is with these retirements coming up, and that can be in a future meeting. Or
I'll make a couple of comments this evening and then provide all of you with some additional information. A lot of the organizational structure for Montgomery County Public Schools came out of the 2007 MGT efficiency audit that was conducted here. And many of the recommendations not only may have required an upfront expenditure with addition of positions, but they showed over the course of time that those positions would actually save the school system money because of the efficiency that it would bring to running this operation. Some of the recommendations have not been implemented even yet for some additional positions in leadership in Montgomery County Public Schools. I also have taken a look at some neighboring school systems in terms of their leadership structure and their curriculum and instruction departmental structures, and what you have in Montgomery County is very comparable to what you'd find in a Roanoke County or a Roanoke City, which would be comparable in size and, you know, some different demographics, some different challenges maybe, but very comparable. But I'd be happy to take a look at the report and reduce some of the recommendations to some summary comments and bring that back to the board both through your update and then also for discussion in the boardroom if that's the desire of the board.
I think that's a really good idea. I thought about it, Sarah, and I think it would be helpful, Ms. Blackburn. I really do.
I also think that some of the, based on my tenure here, is some of the way we're organized too, as far as is related to accreditation. And when SACS and everybody, all the other groups come in, they look at you. One of the main key things they look at is how you're organized and how you're delivering services and being able to do that in a competent manner. So,
absolutely.
You know, we first came on the board, we did not have an assistant. We didn't have an assistant superintendent, and we didn't have a lot of things, and we didn't offer a lot of services. But also too, we're being mandated by the state and federal government to offer a number of things, and they provide no funding, but you have to have people to be able to do those services. So you're in a catch-22 when the state says you have to do this, but we're not going to give you any money or people to do it with. So you can't just do it with piling more on.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a perspective that maybe Sarah and I have not really looked at least I hadn't, and I'd love to know what's being mandated that we're not paid for with regard to administrative staff. I think that's very interesting.
Well, I can tell you that we produce 1 million reports that come out of here, okay? And most every single one of them requires that we have to punch a whole bunch of buttons and then do a whole bunch of manual manipulation of what information we got out of the buttons that we pushed. True, there's been some movement to try to, reduce some paperwork and move some unfunded mandates, but there's a tremendous amount of reporting that's required. In addition, just looking at the SOQs, the staffing that you have in curriculum and instruction is just under what's recommended for SOQ positions for a school division of this size, whereas in many areas, classroom teachers, for example, you far exceed the number that are recommended by SOQ. So you have a track record of prioritizing your expenditures for direct student instruction. And I think that's a good track record, but I also think, as Mr. Jones said, you've got to have people to comply with all the other pieces of what's required of an organization like this, that, the third largest employer in Montgomery County. So it's a very complex operation with a budget of $92 million.
But it's fascinating if we're being forced to have certain administrative positions by the state and the federal government without being funded. And I had not been aware of that at all.
That's the norm, right?
Oh, right. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I know.
Unfunded mandates, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that had to do more with curriculum and that kind of thing than position.
She'll bring it back.
Thank you.
Any other items of new business? Any announcements and information?
Well, I'd just like to reiterate what Ms. Froggatt brought to us about the Montgomery County Education Foundation program a week from Saturday. And I just hope everyone in the whole county will show up to help us start a new vision and a new way of bringing money to our school system through our foundation. And I thank you, Sarah, and everybody who's worked really hard on it.
And I wanted to thank the middle school teachers for providing some input to us, and I look forward to hearing the update on that next week from more teachers and administration for the middle school scheduling models.
We will be meeting with not only middle school principals, but with a teacher leader from each of the middle schools.
Good.
Any other announcements and information? The next item is the upcoming school board meetings, and you see that we have our next one is January the 29th, which is a public hearing on the proposed budget that is here and begins what time? 7 o'clock here? Is that right?
7, yes.
Okay. And then the February 5th meeting, and you see the agenda items that are currently scheduled for that meeting as well. Seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, board members, and thank you, members of the audience.